Joining me today on Flint Rocks is the owner of the biggest and best Bon Jovi Twitter page, Jay Harris. Welcome to Flint Rocks, Jay.
Thanks for having me, mate.
You're welcome. So today we're going to be talking about everything to do with Bon Jovi's legendary edition of Forever, the
hmm
upcoming tour, and the little promo tour that John's been on in the UK and sort of in the States. So I wanted to start by running through the track list on the legendary edition of Forever. It's the re-release of the album from 2024, which now features duets with some pretty cool artists. And I just wanted to get your feeling on the album as a whole, and then we'll have a look by track, and then talk about the bonus tracks on there as well. So
Okay.
yeah, what's your views on the legendary edition then, Jay?
So you just said there, like the album as a whole. I've actually not listened to the full album in terms of starting with Red, White, and Jersey and finishing with We Made It Look Easy, the Spanish version or whatever. All the songs I've done, I've just kind of shuffled them on Spotify or YouTube. In all honesty, some of the songs I absolutely love. I think some of the versions are better. A lot of them I'm not too keen on. But as you said at the start, there's a few really big names, and they were kind of the ones that I was more interested in. Having said that, though, there's one or two that have surprised me as well. So I think it's good. I think it's a good album. I wasn't that against it in terms of how everyone else was. It wasn't something I wanted, don't get me wrong, but when you get to the Bon Jovi singing with Robbie Williams or Bruce Springsteen, I'll take them opportunities as a fan of both.
Definitely. I think a lot of the issues come from we kind of got promised a box set of unreleased demos and outtakes. And I think a lot of fans actually feel that this project has taken the place of that. So I think that's where if we'd had the box set around last Christmas and then this has come out, obviously as a way of promoting a tour, I don't think there'd have been so much of a negative sort of reaction there. What do you kind of think
No,
about that?
no, I totally agree. This time last year, nearly, we found out, I've just shown you then, we found out about the book coming out. And I bought the book, I think it was the deluxe edition I bought. And it's still in its packaging. I haven't even opened it. If that was a box set, I'd have read every page in it. I'd have listened to every song on it. It's totally different to kind of what we want. However, as I said, for now I'll take it, but I still do want. I don't want stuff on the serious type of thing. I want stuff. I like physical copies. I love a box set. Even the Japan one they done, was it a year ago, 2 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
Like all the best one. I enjoyed that. Like, just even though I've got every single song, it's still nice to have that physical copy. Wait for it to come in the post or get it for Christmas or whatever it is. I just don't really have that with anything that's coming out recently. Even when I went to buy it, like I love going to HMV still and getting the album, going the album, buying it, taking it home. It's still in its packaging, legendary edition, but I bought it because I like physical copies of stuff.
No, I'm with you on that. And I think you almost get that little bit of pride from seeing like your favorite bands out there when they're going on these massive promo tours. And I was in London and you walk around the corner and you've got massive posters of the bands. And that just takes me
Yeah.
back to my favorite time of being a Bon Jovi fan was back in 2010. So
hmm
anybody that knows me knows that I love The Circle and everything to do with that album, that tour. And going through London at that point, you go down into the underground and it would just be full of Bon Jovi posters. And it would just
Yeah.
be so cool to see it. And I still get
Mm.
that buzz of when I pop into town and, like you say, pop to HMV and in the window is just like a new Bon Jovi release there. So I
Yeah.
totally get that. And I'm all about physical media as well. So I love
Yeah.
collecting my vinyls. I got the book. I thought the book was absolutely fantastic. It
hmm
clearly is what's going to go on to the Bon Jovi experience. So just to give people a heads up for if they don't know, there's kind of like a digital museum that John and the band have created. So it's the Bon Jovi experience. You can just find it through their website, and that goes through album by album. We're up to, I think we've just finished the These Days section at the moment, and they put clips of outtakes. So this is the frustrating thing for us as fans. We get sort of like 20 seconds of a song, and
Yeah.
it's like, well, if you're not going to be releasing this music, why are you only giving us 20 seconds of a song on there? And some of it's really cool because they're taking individual songs and then breaking down from sort of the initial demos up to like first studio attempts up until like the finished products. And I can see why I'm probably keeping some of the outtakes for potential bonus releases of albums and
Yeah.
things like that, or expanded editions of albums. But when you've got sort of like, for example, the last song that they focused on was This Ain't a Love Song. So, yeah, it breaks down from sort of the writing sessions to John and Richie just playing on guitar, different versions. And we're only getting 20 or 30 seconds of these songs. They're not going to be sold anywhere else. Other than us diehards, who's going to sit there and listen to 6 versions of This Ain't a Love Song? And they've got a perfect sort of platform for releasing it. And I guess the other frustration, and one of my biggest frustrations of being a Bon Jovi fan, over the last sort of 6 or 7 years, everything sort of release wise has gone American centric. So they're releasing everything through the Sirius radio station. So they do each week they get a new live show from back in the archives, which they're giving away to fans for free in America, as long as you have a Sirius subscription.
Yeah.
So obviously in the UK, we get it through our friends in America. And the same when they did an awesome 2025 demo outtake show where John and Obi were going through Destination Anywhere demos, alternative versions of Blaze of Glory, and some songs from the Fahrenheit album where they'd re-added guitar solos and bits and pieces. It was awesome, but it's all released on American services, and we can't legally get it in the UK. Now, I don't know if John doesn't realize that, and they just think, well, we've got this radio stations you can access around the world, because I doubt he does his own sort of Sirius subscription. But that's something that's always kind of frustrated me. You find as well, especially with the shop, and I'm not going to get into the shop because some of the tap that they sell there really winds me up. But again, the quality stuff tends to be for an American audience, where in Europe, where I don't know what your feeling is, that I feel Bon Jovi are probably technically a bigger band in Europe than they are in the States. You look at
100%.
We're selling out. I know we've got 9 nights at Madison Square Gardens, but you look at the last couple of American tours, they're playing smaller arenas. Yes, they may have gone back and done a few stadiums, but they come to the UK, they come across Europe, and it is stadiums because they've got that legacy, that legendary band status. And I do feel sometimes that we are given sort of the short straw on things like that. So I'm going to keep this positive as much as possible, but there are a few gripes, and it's
definitely
to bring them up.
No, definitely. And as you said, when you're getting the legendary edition, which isn't what we wanted, as I said, I'll take it, but it's not what we wanted. And then you have got, the backstage where you're getting, as you said, 20, 30 seconds of songs. You kind of go, hold on a minute. Even if you imagine, for instance, we woke up today and they dropped Hey God demo or something on Spotify, the views, the clicks, the listens it would get would be so much more, in my opinion, than even the legendary edition or Red, White and Jersey or something like that, because I think it would get old fans clicking on Spotify again for Bon Jovi, listening to that song, going, I love These Days, love Hey God, I'll listen to that. But instead, as you said, we're getting 20, 30 seconds. There's fans that probably aren't fans anymore, who don't even know about backstage, and this is a gold mine for them. This is something they've wanted since they were fans from the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, and I just feel like Bon Jovi missed the boat a lot with releasing stuff. I feel like they're so off the ball, whether it is merchandise, whether it is bringing albums out or books out. I just feel like they missed the mark always with something, and I can't put my finger on what, because when they're releasing a tour or an album, John's all over the place in the UK, especially lately. The promo was fantastic for that. But I just feel like when you're releasing, stuff that the fans want, we don't really hear about it. Like, if I never seen it on Twitter, I probably wouldn't know that they've updated the backstage. There's just nothing. I can't put my finger on what I want them to do. As I said, I think I'd just love for a full song from these archives. I'd love a full demo, but I would love just to wake up one day and they dropped something in full, even if it's on YouTube or even if it is on Spotify, just a full demo of something, and we go, oh, there we go. That's what we want. We wanted to hear a 4-minute 50 version of it, not a 45-second version of it.
I think the thing is as well, knowing a little bit about sort of the Springsteen camp, they've got a guy that they've employed called Eric Flanagan. So Eric
Hmm.
came from sort of the Springsteen forums. He was a fan, and they've kind of brought him into the fold of like Springsteen Inc. And then we talk about like Bon Jovi management, Springsteen management, but they actually took this guy in there, and he does all like the liner notes. He advises what fans want in these deluxe editions, because one of my big
Hmm.
frustrations last year was we got a Slippery When Wet re-release on
Yeah.
the 38th anniversary. We've got the
Yeah.
40th year is coming out in 2026, and we've got a calendar.
Yeah.
I brought the calendar. The calendar is cool. We've got some really cool images on there, but it's kind of like that. It doesn't seem like there's ever synergy between sort of
No.
what socials are doing, what the like the backstage is doing, or kind of what they're promoting. There doesn't seem to be any
Yeah.
sort of like even the merch. Like this year was we had a big anniversary for These Days, which is probably the most well respected and regarded Bon Jovi
Yeah.
album by fans. We had nothing, and then all of a sudden, late at night, we get sort of a crappy shirt up here, which
Yeah.
is highly overpriced. And we're like, well, you could easily have just dropped a boat. Like we woke up back in 2024 when we said we're going to be celebrating the 40th anniversary of the band. In January, they dropped an extended edition of the debut album, which was brilliant.
Hmm.
None of us knew it was coming. And all of a sudden, we had like friends in New Zealand that said, there's an extended cut of, it's just called Bon Jovi. So the Bon Jovi debut album. And we were buzzing because it was like there was about 10 different versions of Runaway, but understanding the history of the band and how important that song is, it was cool
Yeah.
to get that. We did get some live tracks that we'd had before, but there was a few little nuggets on there. And how cool would that have been just to release each album, which is something they potentially may be doing? Because I wanted to talk to you about on the Sirius show, they'd mentioned that they're currently remixing Fahrenheit, so the
Yeah.
second album, which we're given little nuggets like that, and they're also working on Blaze of Glory, so they've been going back in and working on that. So it makes me wonder whether there is a plan there to go back and then do sort of digital re-releases of all of the
Yeah.
albums and then put tracks on there. But it would just be nice to get a little bit of clarification, because it seems like certain fans are given little nuggets of information which they drop through their services,
Yeah.
but it would be nice to have somebody that actually talks to fans in general and just sort of says, right, almost like a tease at the beginning of the year. Like we got told by John, like, oh, we've got 3 or 4 surprises before the end of the year. And I'd like to think probably the Legendary Edition of Forever is one, the tour is another
Mm.
one. There's
Yeah.
supposedly a TV special, which
Hmm.
just jumping ahead to question and answer session that me and my wife Danny went to. John was talking about the fact that they've filmed 8 songs in total, or he said 6 to 8 songs. So I'm guessing it's 8 songs, including Legendary and Red, White, and Jersey, and It's My Life, which they performed
Hmm.
as part of a promo for the tour. And I think it would be nice to have a little bit more clarity on sort of their plans, because the TV special is cool. Like if we're getting that before the end of the year, but it seems very in flux. Like we've only got what, 7 weeks. So is it just going to
Yeah.
drop? Is it going to be on sort of a streaming service? Like just give us a little bit more information instead of just telling 1 or 2 people and allowing them to leak it out, because it just comes across a little bit unprofessional, in my opinion.
It does. Yeah, it does. And yeah, going back to the Bon Jovi time and they released like the Ruby edition and stuff. As you said, we kind of just woke up, and it's nice that you wake up. I'm probably going to contradict myself because I said I'd like to wake up and see on Spotify or YouTube a full release of songs and stuff. But when you're waking up and then all of a sudden there's been no promo for an album that's coming out, like the Bon Jovi 40th anniversary, they're the ones then when it flops, they'll moan and say, "Oh, it didn't sell as well, so we're not going to do the rest of them." It's very similar to how they did with the New Jersey box set a few years ago. We got told that there was going to be a few more of them, and I think, in my opinion, the reason there isn't is because it probably didn't sell as well as they wanted. But I can't really remember much promotion from it. You didn't see, David Bowie, for instance. My dad's a huge David Bowie fan. he releases a box set what feels like every bloody week, but you see like promo montages before it's come out saying something's coming soon, and then they'll do like a build up every day, and then all of a sudden drop what it's going to be and say release dates in a month's time or whatever. Bon Jovi don't do that. They just go, we're going to do this, pre-order now, and you're just kind of looking at it going, well, I'm a fan, I want to buy it. There isn't much. There's been no anticipation. I don't know if I've got 60 quid just to pay for an album now. Whereas if you have a bit of time to understand something's coming out, you can kind of, like the tour, we all kind of prepared ourselves a little bit more for the tour as stuff was happening. And you kind of go, okay, maybe this month I'll take it a bit easy with my outgoings because I want to see Bon Jovi. It's what we do. I just feel like things just get dropped on us and you go, oh, hold on, didn't even know that was happening. Kind of like the serious stuff. We wake up and all of a sudden there's 8 new versions of different songs. I'm like, where's that come from? As nice as the surprise it is, if there was a way, I'd try and stay up till 4 a.m, use a VPN or something like that, and listen to it because that's what we want. I'd love to listen to. There's probably some of the interviews from it with John and Obi that I haven't listened to because I just want to listen to the songs. But in that moment, I'd love to listen to John explain certain songs and how the writing process happened, who was in the studio, blah, blah, blah. They do just drop stuff. I think that's one of the things I was saying before. I do think that's where they dropped the ball a little bit. Having said that, though, the first, and I think me and you have this discussion a few times, the first 6 months of 2024 for the 40th anniversary were probably similar to how you are with 2010. It was one of my favourite times of being a fan of the band.
Yeah.
Because I felt, what was it, January, February, we had the music here, then we had Legendary come out, then we had the video come out for Legendary, then we got to when the album, the documentary in the April. I felt like Bon Jovi were everywhere. I felt like something every month was something big. And then all of a sudden, after the album come out, there was nothing. And you go, this is your 40th. I know they probably wanted to do a tour, that's fine. But you go, this is your 40th anniversary. You probably knew before, obviously Forever was coming out, you weren't going to tour. You weren't just going to, you've got to book the stadiums, you've got to book the arenas, you've got to get people on your side. Flex has got to be free, so on and so forth. Have something in plan when things don't go how you want it to go. Because then last 6 months, there was nothing really.
It just feels like, to me sometimes, that John gets bored, like in the sense that he had this plan, he couldn't tour, and it's like, right, I'm done with it. And I just wanted to circle back quickly to the New Jersey box set, where I've spoken to one of the guys that actually started to put that together. And the original plan for that, just to give you some gossip, they were going to go, well, they wanted to go back in and re-release and remaster, and upscale the Odeon shows, which are considered some of the best shows the bands have ever done. Yeah. They wanted demos, they wanted a remixed album, but because it was in between tours and it was kind of when John and Richie had fallen out, and it was a little bit of, it was the period in time when you listen to interviews now that John was walking past his guitar and giving it his middle finger.
Yeah.
He didn't want anything to do with these deluxe editions. So they are just kind of chucked out. And it was great to get sort of the tracks, but we'd heard most of them before. And some of them were just released in subpar quality. Like, Does Anybody Fall in Love Anymore? Was missing half the vocals. And yes, John wasn't going to go back in and re-record them, but they could have grabbed the bootleg, which is readily available, and even at that point you can go in and rip vocals from a song and then just replace them, so you get everything was half-assed. And I think that was something that we were all really looking forward to. And it kind of feels a little bit with Forever, we had that first 6 months, which was awesome. And I remember me and you speak most days about Bon Jovi related stuff. And it was like, oh my God, have you seen this? Have you seen this? This is coming. This is coming. Yeah. And it was great. And I also saw a lot of older fans. And like we said, you run a massively successful Twitter page. And old fans were coming back and actually getting... Bon Jovi are a band for me that I drift away from because I've had issues with things post 2020 that I haven't agreed with how they've dealt with fans or different bits and pieces. We don't need to get into that. But they're still a band that they chuck a reel out and it pulls me back in. Like,
oh yeah,
And a lot of people feel like that because you've got, whether people had dropped out sort of at the end of New Jersey or Keep the Faith or these days sort of eras, or if it was later on, a lot of people seem to drop off around about 2013 when Richie left the band for
Yeah.
obvious reasons,
Hmm.
but they still want to come back. And that's the thing as well. Like, they're still fans just because they're not like, not necessarily diehards anymore, but just because they're slightly disillusioned with the sound of the band or what or how the band's performing, that kind of thing. That's fine, but they're still a fan and they still want to hear these things. And I think that's where
Yeah.
it becomes frustrating.
Yeah, and my brother's very similar to that because my brother stopped being a fan around 2007. I think the last show we went to was the O2 opening. That was the last show we went to, and he was just like, "I'm done with them," type thing. But even still, when they announced this show, this tour, he watched the promo video. He's messaging, and obviously he wasn't positive about it, but he's still there. He's still watching it. Why are you watching something that nearly 20 years ago you stopped being a fan of? It's because you do want to still be a fan, and
Yep.
you're trying to be a fan. And I feel the same. I feel the same as you. There has been times where I've gone, I'm just going to listen to other people. I'm not even going to, like, to be honest with you, quite recently I've been like that. I haven't really, on Bon Jovi talk, I haven't really posted much the last week or two because I've just kind of gone, you know what? I'm just coming away from it a little bit. I think obviously the hype of the tour and all that's dropped down a little bit now, which is fine. That's understandable. But there's nothing really to speak about. And then I look on there and I just see the same fan base, obviously doing what they do, and it just goes, you know what? Just take a step back. Like, don't let it. There's other things to focus on in life now. Until obviously Bon Jovi, whether you message me today or tomorrow or whenever and say there's something else serious again, or I've got this, I've got that, then it reels me back in. But I'm very similar to you. Sometimes it's nice just to take a step back, and it's not because I don't want to be a fan. At the moment, I'm probably a bigger fan than I've ever been, but I still want to take a step back sometimes and just go, you know what, listen to other artists, follow other, whether it's the footy or the boxing or whatever, that are my other passions, and kind of focus on that for a bit and just get away from Bon Jovi a little bit. I still listen to them every day, don't get me wrong, but to be in the circle of, watching and reading and seeing stuff on Twitter and that, I've just kind of come away a little bit, just for now.
I think we all do that. I'm very much in sort of 2023. I kind of took a break, and it was the first
Yeah,
time with like my Spotify Wrapped that like my top songs didn't really feature Bon Jovi songs. The only one that
yeah,
randomly turned up, and there was No Apologies, which when I've looked back, No Apologies is a song that I've listened to since it's come out countless times, but it's always
yeah,
up there. But I didn't realize how much it
good
was.
pal.
I think it is hard with Bon Jovi, and I've been doing I've been part of a really nice sort of fan community as well, where there's a YouTube channel called Hand 90. So I'm going to plug you, Dom, where Dom, the owner, he sort of takes his time, he remasters videos as well as live audios, and then we have premieres sort of a couple of times a week, groups of us to get together on YouTube and watch a Bon Jovi show. And he's been doing a Jovi through the years. It's the third time that we've done this, and it was something that was amazing through like the pandemic. But we've recently done another one where he starts right at the beginning. We go through every era of the band, including solo shows. And last night was the second sort of circle show. So the two circle ones, we had the last night at the O2, which I was at in 2010. And it was a show that when I went to it, I thought, oh, this was good. But I was a little bit jealous of some of the other shows getting a few more sort of circle songs and a few more rarities. We got like the second half of the show was fantastic. But then I rewatched it sort of 15 years. I don't know where that 15 years has gone. 15 years later, and it's a legendary show. It's
Yeah,
absolutely fantastic. And John's vocals on it, man, we were all sort of, because you get a live chat on there as well, and we're all like,
yeah,
oh my god, this is so good. And they played Bullet from The Circle, which is a song that I recommend anybody go and listen to. It's got a nice heavier edge to it. They played that live, and everybody's like, why didn't they continue doing this? And then
yeah.
you get these days into Hard Letting You Go, which is a song from these days, which hadn't been played for sort of 10 years, I think, at that point, or near on 10 years. And it was amazing. And I was like, okay, so that show that I thought at that point, because of all the set list that I was following, was, yeah, it
Yeah,
was okay. And then
yeah,
last night we had John's 49th birthday show in full HD, like crystal clear sound. And this is the thing as well. Some shows are sort of die-hard audio, some are like fantastic and almost soundboard quality. But the show last night, it brings people together and everybody's talking about sort of what they were up to at those points in life. And it is that nostalgia, and you want to go back and you want to feel those feelings again. And one of the conversations I was having with somebody is that how amazing the residency at the O2 was. And like how I would go on the Bon Jovi forums and be looking at the set list coming in every night, and you would see these songs that hadn't cropped up, like Let It Rock hadn't been played since
yeah,
1986, 87.
yeah,
And then all of a sudden John was playing that live, and then you would get Something to Believe In would crop up, or you would get some songs from the Circle that only played two or three times.
yeah,
Santa Fe, which is a song from Blaze of Glory, which is one of my favorite solo John songs, and probably one of my favorite songs of all time, actually. Nobody
yeah.
expected them to bring that out. And even Dom said it was the night of his prom, and he missed the set list that night. And when he come back in the morning, he was looking at the set list and he was like, nah, I'm still drunk. No way. And you start thinking, and the excitement comes from, well, actually, will we be able to do a little bit more of that when the residency takes place at Madison Square Garden? Will we get to have those kind of nights again? And I think sometimes when you're looking back, you do put yourself back in the shoes of like that person, and you're like, right, I'd like to experience that again. And I think the frustration for a lot of people is the band that we were watching last night, it's hard to see that existing now. Not because Richie, and this is not me trying to slight on Phil at all, but you just look at like the show started yesterday with Just Older, and within 2 seconds, John's got his arm round Phil and his arm round Richie, sorry, and he's high fiving him, and they're sharing a microphone, and it's the backing vocals, and it's so magical. And then later
Yeah,
in the show, there's probably the best version of Diamond Ring that you'll ever hear. So Richie's on an electric guitar. They're on the catwalk in front of the crowd, and it's sharing a microphone, and it is just pure. It's beautiful. It's the only way you can
yeah,
describe this performance of the song. And yeah, Phil comes in, and Phil's a fantastic guitarist, and I do enjoy a lot of his drill stuff. But it's just that brotherhood. And I don't think those at that point, it was like 27 years. It's hard to see that replicated on stage now. And that's where sometimes I
yeah,
feel John looks a bit isolated, because Richie was his right hand man. And it was Richie's decision to leave at that point. Totally get that. And this is not a slight on John. But even when you see like the newer stuff, it's almost like John is on his own now. And it was really
yeah,
sad to see, because I forgot how close in the Circle tour and the Greatest Hits tour that they were together, and it was
yeah.
how constant they were sharing like a microphone and hugging each other and high-fiving. And it's sad what it's come to, I guess.
It's funny you should say that because in a clip come up on me Instagram or something like that the other day, and it was from the documentary, and it was basically John talking about the time when Richie left, and he was saying on stage he hasn't got that anymore, and that will never be filled. Basically, you know that what you said, the hug and probably the high five and the vocals together, just how they were, the chemistry of them, and it actually made me think there because yeah, John Shanks, for instance, you know, can't stand the fella, but he's been there for 20 years in the band, obviously, you know, since Have a Nice Day, being the producer. You never see John put his arm around him at a show. You never see him high five him at a show. You never really see them communicate when they're playing live. And this is the guy who's been with them for 20 years. It's not like Phil, who, don't get me wrong, Phil's been there now 12 years, is it? Something like a 14
Yeah.
if you go back to 2011. But obviously, Phil replaced Richie. John Shanks, in that sense, you know, he's been there for God knows how many albums now. Is it 7, 8, something like that? I don't know, but there's no chemistry with them two on stage at all. Like there was more with Bobby
Yep.
than John Shanks, and John Shanks is much closer to the stage than Bobby ever was. Obviously, Bobby would do the odd little clip of a song, you know, the little jukebox part, which was quite nice, and sing down the mic with John. But there's never any. You don't look at John and John Shanks and go, oh, they get on well or anything like that when they're on stage. There's nothing. I'd actually say John goes to David more than any of them now.
Yeah, I would do.
There's just no, considering John Shanks and Phil X are right next to John either side of him. There's no, apart from maybe This House is Not for Sale, where John walks over to Phil X as he's doing that outro. There's no, I can't tell you another time where I see them kind of laughing, arm around each other, anything like that. And I totally agree with you. I think that's where we miss Richie. I think that's where John misses Richie, should I say, where there's just no chemistry up there anymore. And that's what I think is missing. That there needs to be. Look at the Hall of Fame performance, how much John was looking at Richie and vice versa. They actually high-fived each other there. The It's My Life solo, or when Richie's doing the backing vocals. I think I've said this to you before. There's a part where I absolutely love it. John's just kind of got the mic, pointing it towards him, doing this like dance type thing. And it just looks like the old John. It really does. Like, I can't tell you another time post then that I've thought, God, John looks himself. Honestly, I can't. And that's sad.
The thing for me is not a slight, because nobody's saying that John's done anything wrong. Like, well, admittedly, actually, and jumping ahead a little bit, because we'll look through the Legendary Edition in a minute. In one of the interviews, because John has been on lots of podcasts and radio shows, he's got that understanding that he pushed the band too far now, that he pushed Richie too far, that Richie wanted to go. You look at the Circle Tour, the greatest hits, the guys were having fun. Like, John whips that they've got a bit of freedom, because the kids are off at college. They're sort of 50-year-old men now, where they've got nothing left to prove. And I guess that's the thing that I felt on the Circle Tour, was just them up there having fun and then enjoying playing older songs, rarer songs. I think they were quite proud of the Circle as an album as well. So a lot of songs stuck around. And I think it's sad to see sort of that John then, the whole what about now, trying to push to buy a football team. And it was just like, right, we need to sell tickets. And I think that's where I got quite a bad taste in my mouth, because for a band that looked really cool, like, I know that might sound really naff, but you look at the band in 2011 and they looked cool on the stage. Richie looked really happy, really cool. Some of the things he was wearing was just standard wacky Richie stuff. Dave was having the time of his life. Tico looks really happy. And John looks so happy up there. And I know it might be that vocally he was actually reaching a second peak. But the show we watched last night, the rasp that he was bringing out, how he got into Have a Nice Day, the 2010 show, we were all really surprised about Who Says You Can't Go Home. How much John went for it in that. And there's a song in the fan base where a lot of us are like, oh God, we don't want to hear that song again. But actually live and how they were performing it was like, man, they're so into this. And then 2013, it just exploded, and we could be here forever talking about that. So I want to get back on track and just get your thoughts on the album, quick chat about the promo tour, and then what to expect in 2026. So we start the album with Red, White, and Jersey, which
a little bit with the Legendary Edition. It's Red, White, and Jersey. It's not for me really. I much prefer Legendary personally. Much prefer it. I don't know why, because they're quite similar. And I'm not a massive fan of Legendary, don't get me wrong. It's not something I click straight away and listen to. But I don't know. Red, White, and Jersey it does nothing for me. I don't know why. I can't put my finger on it, and it never has. And it's not. I've probably listened to it since it come out 10 times maybe, which for the new Bon Jovi single, which we got access to, and that's a video, that's not a lot for me. I'm not too keen. What about yourself?
For me, it's quite a funny one. This is the first song that my daughter, other than Bad Name, Bad Medicine, and Prayer, that's hooked on, and she loves it. And we get in the car, and she's like, "Daddy, can we have Red, White, and Jersey on?" And I've got that personal connection with it. So for me
That's
now,
nice.
it's like a song for me and my daughter. At her birthday party, we had a track list of songs, and she wanted a daddy daughter dance, and we had a daddy daughter
Okay.
dance to Red, White, and Jersey.
Right. Okay.
So,
That's nice.
and what I enjoyed more finding out about that song from like the question and answer session that I attended was there's a little bit more lyrical depth in there than what sort of I realized on that first listen. The first listen I listened to, and I was like, standard Bon Jovi post 2000 single for me. That was my initial sort of reaction. But John's talking about the fast lane in the first sort of sentence, where that's the fast lane club, and it's more about Jersey. And I kind of prefer it to Legendary because they it is kind of a rewrite a rewrite of Legendary, but I just feel there's a little bit more grit in there. There's probably a little bit, the guitars are a little bit higher in the mix, which fits for me. But I do think it is just that personal connection for me, which makes it a song
Yeah.
that now I'll enjoy. And the other thing is hearing it on the radio. I know this might
Hmm.
sound really sad, but when I hear a new Bon Jovi song or a new Springsteen song or a Guns N' Roses song on the radio, I get a buzz from
Yeah.
it.
Same.
One of my favorite things in 2024 was hearing Living Proof all over the radio and being like,
Yeah.
yes, like we're finally getting some recognition for a good song.
Yeah.
And I really
Yeah.
felt like Red, White, and Jersey has been about, which has been quite nice. Next song is Legendary with James Bay. For me, it's okay. I like James
Yeah.
Bay, but I've got a fundamental issue with the entire Legendary edition. And it's something that John actually explained in the question and answer, that none of these duets are organic. He literally
Yeah.
said we just sent the tracks over to these artists and was basically said do what you want with them.
Yeah.
So that's what's missing for me is the two artists in the room collaborating, and that's where it takes the sheen off the project a little bit for me, because when we actually, and just to confuse everybody, because I keep talking about question and answers, me and Jay actually went to a question and answer session in 2024 at the Prism in London. And John was talking about Forever. At that point, it was due to be released in a matter of weeks. And he said, if I sang the album now, it would sound so much better. And we were all like, oh, okay. So maybe his vocals were good on the album because they sounded fine on the songs we'd heard. But at that point, okay, if you're thinking about re recording, it made me think, right, actually, is he thinking, right, I could push myself here on certain songs? There was Kiss the Bride, I don't think the vocals were particularly good on. I Wrote You a Song, I didn't think that on the original version, the vocals were great. And I thought, oh, maybe he's going back, and part of the duets is him being able to re-record little bits, or maybe hold a note higher, or do a little bit different. So that was a
Yeah.
disappointment for me. So what did you think to Legendary with James Bay?
Well, I actually seen James Bay. He was supporting Stereophonics in Belfast about, I don't know, May, June, something like that. And he surprised me because obviously I only know the hits that I see on, the telly or
Yeah,
in the gym or whatever. They're the only songs that I've never actually sat down and listened to him. And when I was watching him live, his vocals were brilliant.
yeah,
So I was quite excited for him, to be honest. Don't get me wrong, I never went back and listened to any of his albums, anything like that. However, when I seen his name, I was like, oh, okay, that's a nice addition. But it didn't even sound like what I heard in Belfast, like his voice. It sounded totally different for me. Even the singles that I've heard from him, I don't think it actually sounds, I'm not saying it's not him, but it didn't sound like him. And I think it's because, as you said, he's just been given this song, said, listen to our version, put your own spin on it, and do what you send it back across. I don't think they've actually sat there and gone, you know what, let's put this in and that and so on, if John was there. And I think that is what's letting this album down, because, as you said, if John, as you said, in 2024 was to go back and do all these again with these new artists, I think we'd have a much better album, personally.
definitely. And that's what I was hoping for. We made
Yeah,
it look easy with Robbie Williams, so I'll let you take the
yeah,
lead on this in a second.
yeah.
My issue with this one song was that, again, Robbie didn't sound like Robbie. I
Hmm.
struggled the first time
Hmm.
I listened to it. It was like, is that him coming in now?
Yeah,
And I don't know if it is too, like, there's no getting away from this. There's not a slight on John or his vocals at all, but John's vocals on the studio album have had work done on them.
Yeah,
And they have, if you listen to them in isolation, they are artificial in places. Now, I don't know if they've had to put the same kind of filters on other people's voices, so it's not
yeah,
as different when you've got another person coming in and singing.
yeah,
And that's what my kind of thing was, because you're always pushing Robbie songs on me. So you'll say, oh,
yeah,
Robbie's got a new single. This one's like quite hard rocking. And I'll go listen to it. And it sounds like Robbie.
yeah.
This one, it didn't. Not that it was a bad song or not that
No, I agree.
performance wasn't there. And I like the lyric changes as well.
Yeah, yeah. I think exactly the same. I remember listening to it for the first time. I was going, that doesn't sound like Robbie. And Robbie's got, in my opinion, he's got a very distinctive voice. You know when it's Robbie Williams. Um, I think if I listened to that without being a Bon Jovi fan, and I wouldn't know that was Robbie Williams at first until somebody probably told me. I prefer this version. It might be a bit biased, but I like the lyric change. I like the kind of add a little bits Robbie put in towards the end and stuff like that. I've never been a huge fan of We Made It Look Easy, and obviously I got to hear it before the album come out at one of the shows that I went to. I got to hear it there, and I was never too keen on it, and I'm still not. But I prefer this version to the original. But that's probably me being biased towards Robbie because I'm a big fan.
No, that makes sense. Living Proof with Jelly Roll, for me, it doesn't add much. And I think this is the problem that I'm finding, other than there's a song further on that we'll talk in a minute, that again,
Mm-hmm.
no slight on the artist. I would never go back and replace. There's two songs on here that I would go and replace with, if we were taking Forever 2024, Forever the Legendary Edition. There was two that I would take off of the Legendary Edition and put onto the original album, and I'll talk about them when they crop up. But this isn't one of them. There's just nothing extra. Jelly Roll sounds great. I
Yeah,
like the way that he sings it, but it just doesn't do anything for me, I guess.
yeah. Living Proof is such a good song as well that it was one where I seen someone was going to do a duet on it. I was kind of like, just leave it as it is, unless it is going to be spectacular when they re-release it. But yeah, but you know what's annoying? And I probably only listened to it once or twice. When I listened to the Living Proof studio album now, I can't get Jelly Roll's backing vocals out my head. You know, like the added bit that he puts on towards the end.
Yeah.
I always feel like that's in my head when I'm listening to it, and I don't particularly like it either. But you know, I think a lot of people were saying, imagine that was Richie doing it and so on. And yeah, I can, but I just think Living Proof as a song is too good to mess about with personally because I absolutely love it. I have from the minute I heard it.
And I think that's the thing as well, that for me, certain songs lend themselves to being duets, and then other
Yeah,
songs don't, because how they're written, like the
yeah,
story of a song. And I get We Made It Look Easy kind of works because Robbie came up slightly after Bon Jovi. But if you listen to some of the podcasts that John's been doing, John's mentored Robbie a little bit, and they've been able to have some of those conversations about fame, those bits that we don't
yeah,
understand. They've Robbie. I can't remember the exact specifics. I think he's got a house near John, and they actually get together and have these sort of deep conversations. It was really funny because John says, I can bring all my multiple personalities, and Robbie can bring all of his multiple
yeah,
personalities, and they all collide, and it's amazing.
yeah,
And I get that kind of shared history. And I know Jelly Roll and some of these artists actually got brought across because they performed Bon Jovi songs at the Music Cares. So it's kind
mhm,
of like John, it links into the Forever project. So I can see where they're coming from. And Jelly Roll is sort of a big American artist. I don't think he's particularly well known over here as well. And I think that kind of doesn't hurt. That hurts it a little bit in my eyes, because
yeah,
whereas I know James Bay, I followed James Bay since like 2015, got all of
yeah,
his albums, love him. I've seen a lot of Americans that think, well, I don't know who this James Bay is. I guess I was kind of the same with Jelly Roll. Waves with
yeah,
Jason Isabel for me though, that works. I really like this version, but Waves for me was my favorite song of last year. I
yeah,
love Waves. I think Waves, we heard it at the promo show we went to, and I was blown away by it, especially sort of the lyrics of the bridge and then going into the solo. I think it's an amazing song. It's a 9 out of 10 song for me.
Yeah,
And this is a great version. It is. I think Jason Isabel's vocals on it are stunning. I do think the guitars are slightly higher in the mix, but I can't. I wouldn't actively choose to listen to this version over the original just because I love the original so much.
same. Obviously Jason Isbell was who wrote the song with John and so on. And it makes sense, obviously, that he is the one doing the duet. But Waves is very similar to me for Living Proof. It's that good. I don't know how they could have made it better for me. It's a song that, you know what, a year and a half on, 18 months on since we first heard it, I still listen to regularly and I
Me
still
too.
absolutely love it. And I think for me, this might sound a bit strange, but the certain parts that I love of like Bon Jovi songs, and I go, oh, I love the way John sings that line. I love the way John finishes that sentence or whatever. And Jason Isbell took over the second verse, and I love that verse from John. I love how he delivers that. I love how he delivers that verse. It's one of my favourites from John, in all honesty. And when you're hearing someone else do it, I'm just like, no. Instantly, I was like, no, no,
Yeah.
leave that to like it. And I shouldn't be like that because obviously it's a duet, but I've for the last year and a half, I've absolutely loved John's verse, and then someone else was now singing it, and it just doesn't sit right with me.
I agree. I probably slightly prefer the mix on
Yeah,
this version of Waves. And I was talking to somebody else, and I was like, I'd kind of like to take all of the duet vocals out and put John's vocals all
yeah,
throughout the mix on these ones because they have been tweaked in places, and I
yeah,
do think they've been
definitely.
tweaked for the better. Seeds
Hmm.
with Ryan Tedder. I must be honest with you, I didn't know much about Ryan Tedder beforehand. It's it, it's a solid performance. I like the sort of the vocals that he's added, but it's sort of the other bits and pieces that he's doing alongside singing, some of like the high note bits that he hits. I think it's
Yeah,
solid. But again, Seeds for me was a unique song. And it always takes me back that early sort of classic Bon Jovi, and I'll probably go up to about 2020, up to the Circle, so about 20, what was it, 2009, the Circle actually dropped. There always seemed to be quite an experimental song on the album. So you'd look back at sort of, I don't know, like Dry County, If I Was Your Mother. I know they're both on the same album there, but there would always be one song that was quite left field. Like you could
yeah,
probably look at like even like Social Disease, that was like Aerosmith style. And there was always one song that they did something that was unique. And this kind of brought me back to that. That was that sort of song there that they've decided, right, I'm going to do something quite unique with it. And it's been quite a while since we've had a song like that. Maybe you could
yeah,
count like I'll Drive You Home from that This House Is Not For Sale, but that was only a bonus track where
mm,
I loved like the whole orchestral side of things. I'd been on a massive listen of like the Who. They've been playing sort of pretty close to my hometown, and I'd really got into the Who, and they've been performing with an orchestra. So when Bon Jovi said that they'd done this semi-orchestral piece in the album, I was buzzing for it.
yeah.
We got to hear it at the promo show, and I thought it was fantastic. And that's another song that's kind of stuck with me a bit. And again, it's nice, but I prefer the original.
Same, yeah. I didn't know much about Ryan Tedder either. I think I remember putting it on. I think it was on Twitter or X, whatever it's called, and someone said, "Oh, he's from One Republic," and I know the name of One Republic, but I'd
Yeah.
never listened to them. Again, yeah, Seeds is probably in my top five from forever. Probably for the fact that you said that. I mean, I think the lyrics are a little bit rubbish on certain parts on the song, but similar to what you said, it's quite different. The outro is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It takes me back to listening to it for the first time when we went to the show, in prison and stuff like that. So I have a bit of a connection to it for that reason. But again, this isn't the version that I'm overly enthusiastic about. I prefer the original on this as well.
And then we move on to Kiss the Bride. Now, I always
Mm,
felt like Kiss the Bride, it was such a personal song to Stephanie, John's daughter. I just didn't like this on the album. I just felt that the original Forever album started to build, and you had two back to back pretty classic songs. And then the album went on off a cliff with this one.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
cute, and I do being a dad now, and I've got my little daughter, and one day that I'm probably going to give her away. I love the whole line about I used to be your whole world. I used to be your Superman. And then how that builds up. I love that. But I just felt this is a bonus track, or this is something that you give to your daughter. And I'm all for personal songs, and it's nice actually to get a bit of a personal song from John. But I just didn't like where it was placed on the album. Not a
yeah,
massive fan of the song, but I love the sentiment behind it. And I just feel that certain songs are bonus tracks, and this is probably or should have been a bonus track. And I also got quite annoyed because, well, not annoyed is too strong a word. When John was doing the original promo Forever, he was pushing this song,
yeah,
and it made it kind of sound like it was going to be a new version of Always, like we were
yeah,
expecting like a ballad. And it's nice, but it's just nice.
yeah. It's one of my worst Bon Jovi songs ever, to be honest with you. It does nothing for me. I can't. I've never liked the song. Um, I think this version I've listened to it once. I may have even switched it off halfway through. I just can't. I just can't. I can't relate to the song. I think personally, even if I did have a daughter and stuff, I don't think I could relate to it because I just can't. I just can't listen to the whole song in full. It does nothing for me. I don't think it ever will. Um, yeah, as you said, the fact that John was really pushing the song very early on when you've got songs like Living Proof, Weed, Seeds, even My First Guitar, the People's House is better than stuff like that. Well, every song on it's better for me, but you've got songs like that because he said it was about Stephanie and the wedding song, so on and so forth. It's a shame that that was the song that was getting really bigged up because, yeah, I'm not a fan whatsoever.
And Billy Falcon for me, like he adds his take, and obviously they wrote the song together, but it's just something for me that I it sounds horrible, but I doubt I'll ever listen to this song again.
Yeah,
And then
yeah, I
we
hope I
move
don't.
on to the People's House, which is probably where this album sort of the idea from it originated from. So around middle of summer last year after Forever had dropped, John was doing a bit of promo there for the Kamala Harris when she was aiming to be president. And as part of that, he re-released The People's House with the War and Treaty, which I thought was a cracking version. It really, like
Yeah,
John describes it as that they took the song and they took it to church.
yeah,
For me, it's maybe sacrilege, but it felt like actually there was some Richie style backing vocals because
yeah,
I feel the guy has got that kind of bluesy Richie feel, and it kind of showed me what this song could have been with Richie. It's a good song. I enjoy it. I
yeah,
enjoy this version. I I prefer it more than the original? Maybe it's one of those ones that I'm on the fence for, but I think it's good. What about yourself?
yeah. I prefer this version, and I like the People's House, the original version. In fact, really like it. It's in again. That's probably me top five, maybe top six of the album. Um, I think I love the video. I think John looks great on the video. I think he looks
Yeah.
like the cool rock star again. As you said, I do think the One Treaty took this song to a different level. I'm not saying it was to another, as in like it's fantastic or anything, but I do think they added a little bit more. Um, and you can tell, I feel like you can tell with them, they actually sat there and thought, okay, we'll do this with it. Whereas the other ones on this album, I think they've just been given, okay, give me this back in a day or two's time and let us know what you think. Whereas I think the War and Treaty probably, sat there and think, okay, we're going to be on a Bon Jovi album. We're going to have a video for it. Let's really nail this. And I think they did. I prefer this version, but that I still love the original version as well. So I think that says a lot about the War and Treaty when, I already liked the version. For me, they made it slightly better.
No, I agree with that one. Walls of Jericho, which is one of my favorite songs off the album.
Yeah,
My issue with this is probably your issue with Waves. I think Joe Elliott is fantastic on here, but he takes one of my favorite
yeah,
John
same.
verses, and
Exactly
that's
the
the
same.
problem. I love the mix
Yeah,
on this. I think they've improved the mix. The song's got a slightly heavier guitar, in there, or the guitar's higher in the mix, it's not heavier. Joe Elliott's backing vocals are great. I just want
Yeah,
John to sing the whole thing because I
same.
love the way this for me was John's best vocals on the album, and I find it like I will alternate listening with this one, but man, I missed that sort of second verse because
Yeah,
yeah, it's such a good second verse.
I remember I was in the car. It was the day the album come out, and I was in the car with my missus, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll put this one on. This is the one that I'm quite looking forward to listening to because obviously Joe Elliott, Def Leppard, and Wars of Jericho itself is a good song. I thought
Yep.
two rockers, and obviously I'm not John. Obviously sang I think every song on this album he's from the first verse, and you know where you're going. Come on, just take the second on this one. Just let
Yeah.
Joe Elliott do something else towards the end. Maybe add their own verse. I don't care. And then when he done it, and there was no rasp, there was no. I was like, oh no, like why have they given that? Because I'm the same as you. Like the line when John sings like the war is over and stuff, and he has that rasp
Yeah.
in his vocals. Like to me, it's almost vintage John. I'm not saying he delivers the line like he would Bloody Santa Fe or anything like that, but every time I hear it, I go, yeah, that's John Bon Jovi, and it's not there on this.
I
So
got such a
yeah,
personal connection to this song when we went to the question and answers
yeah,
session.
yeah,
And I will tell my little story. We'd heard that Walls of Jericho was a good song. We've been queuing up and we've been talking to other fans, and John sort of come out and said, "I'm going to play you songs that we haven't played anybody else before," which wasn't kind of true because a lot of people had heard Waves and
yeah,
we heard Seeds as well. But then he was like, "And I'm
yeah.
going to play you this song called Walls of Jericho," and I got a little excited and was like, "Yes!" And then John turned and looked at me and he was like, "Have you heard it?" And I was like, no. And then he just sort of looked at me and started talking to me. And he was like, "Oh, so are you a bootlegger guy?" And a mate of mine recorded this whole react like this little mini conversation that I had with John. But it was the first time that I'd made eye contact with the guy, and it was just I don't know. You have little moments in your life which mean a lot to
No,
you. The
yeah,
thing is,
definitely.
um, I'm passionate about Bon Jovi. So where people have sort of said, "Oh, you're a bit negative about this," or like, "Why are you still a fan if you don't like Limitless?" and things like that. Like because of that moment, because that guy has written so many songs, he's been a part of my life for decades. That I've followed these men.
Yeah.
I love them. Like that sounds really bad, but they're
No,
my
yeah, yeah.
heroes. And to have that little moment where for those 2 seconds that we had eye contact, it was like John Bon Jovi knows I exist. And then
But
at
you
the
know what?
last,
Like, even with that story, and people saying, "Oh, why are you a fan?" Like, if you don't like Limitless, as you said, Wars of Jericho is a very good song,
yep,
and that's why we're still fans because the little parts that we're talking about now with John has that little bit of rasp or anything like that. No other artist makes me go, "Oh, like that's good," like Bon
100%.
Jovi does. When John sings a little line like that, it's almost like, here we go. Like that's what we want. We don't want the limitless and so on. And if people like that, that's fine. But that's why we're still a fan because when they have them little bits of that little elements, or even the one that I said on Waves, where I still listen to that verse and go, I love how he delivers that line. I couldn't say another artist where I try and listen out for that like I do with Bon Jovi. And when they nail it, and that's why I'm still a fan.
And I think this is the thing for me. Like I've spoken before, where kind of Springsteen came in at a point there in my life, and then almost has overtook my Bon Jovi fandom because I hate to say it, the band that I've was my first band that I fell in love with doesn't kind of exist in the same way now. And it was a point there that I was connecting more with Springsteen's music. But me and my wife had a conversation and she sort of said, "Well, whose vocals do you prefer?" And I can't not say John because
Yeah,
when I've
yeah,
stood in a one of my there's two concert moments for being a Bon Jovi fan was Hyde Park in 2011, here in Always. It was just amazing. And I know looking back on it now that people have said, "Oh, his vocals weren't like perfect. But for me at that point there, that guy just went out there and his heart was on his sleeve, and those
Yeah.
vocals for me were perfect. And Hard Letting You Go, at the
Hmm.
last show of the O2 residency, I've never been in an arena where you could hear a pin drop. And you might think that
Yeah.
I'm being overly dramatic here, but everybody was so focused on him, his voice, and it's a concert moment that will stay with me forever. It was just
Yeah.
immense. And that's where I always, especially now, and there's just one of the promo shows John was on, he was talking about his vocals, that his voice will crack, and yeah, we'll sing it through for him because I want to be
Yeah.
there and I want to hear him hit a note. I want to hear "Love's the Only Rule" and him nail that note there,
Yeah.
because you are proud of it. Like when he does
Oh
something
yeah.
that you're like, I do understand he's been through a journey and it's been a really hard journey for him, that I will be there singing for him, with him,
Yeah.
and I'll be willing him to hit those notes. Next song, I Wrote You a Song with Lainey Wilson. For
Hmm.
me, absolutely owns the Forever edition, the
Yeah.
original version. I think this is a cracking version. I really
Hmm.
do think Lainey Wilson adds so much to it. I like the extra sort of country infused instruments,
Yeah.
the vocals, and it feels like a natural duet because it
Yeah.
is a ballad.
Definitely.
The two go together. It feels like John and Lainey are singing together. It's, yeah, this one really works for me. And when I do my little playlist and replace songs, this one would replace I Wrote You a Song from the original edition. What do you think on this one?
Same as yourself. I do think I remember. I think the day it come out, you messaged me and was like, "Oh, it's much better." Blah blah. And I've never been a fan of "I Wrote You a Song." It's in the same vein as I think it's better than "Kiss the Bride," but it's in the same vein for me. I just don't listen to it. But then type of songs don't really do much for me. But then when I listened to that, I was like, actually, no. It reminded me of "Still We Ain't Strangers Anymore," which
Yep.
I like. I don't love. Don't get me wrong. I don't love that song, but it's a song that I can tolerate. It's a song that I will listen to if it comes on or whatever like that. And this version is much better, 100% much better. She had so much more to it. The original version just kind of goes nowhere for me, but this adds another element. Similar to the War and Treaty, all it takes is someone to actually. It feels like she wanted to nail this song and did.
And I think this is the thing there. And again, not to keep bringing Richie up, that I feel this could be a song that's kind of like in the vein for "Thank You for Loving Me." It's
Mm,
never going to be in all ways, but it's going to be something that I
no,
think you need something else in there because John is
yeah,
so isolated on his vocals. And when you put Phil, Everett, Shanks, Dave together, there's nothing unique about those voices. Like a lot of them can sing, but when you put them together, they become like a crowd. It's gang vocals instead of having soulful vocals. And I feel that's where there's been a few songs that you think, oh, this is a really good song, but it could be a great song with some alternative backing vocals, or maybe they need to bring Everett higher into the mix because he does have quite a
yeah,
soulful voice. But I always feel like Dave has a nice voice, but it doesn't go with John's. And going back to the
yeah,
documentary, Shanks even showed how John and Richie's vocals sort of melded together, and I do think that's missed. And then with Lainey Wilson brings something which just elevates that song. Living in
yeah,
Paradise for me, this was an interesting one because when we heard about the duets, we all expect Ed Sheeran to appear on this one as he
yeah,
co-wrote the song. John reached out to Ed, and when he was doing the Wembley promo, he told the story where Ed basically said, "I've got a new album coming out. I can't have another new song coming out. Sorry."
yeah,
So John
yeah,
basically told him, like, "Okay, then I'll remember this," like in a jokey
yeah.
way, like, okay, if I'm not good enough to be on my album, like I can kind of see it from an Ed Sheeran point of view. I don't
Oh
think
yeah, definitely.
this song would chart. It's an okay song. I was expecting more from it. One of the first reviews sort of said it compared this song to "In These Arms," and I was like, I don't really get an "In These Arms" kind of
No,
vibe
definitely
from
not.
it. It was like it was an "In These Arms" style power ballad. No,
Yeah,
I've got a
no,
different
I
view
don't
on
get
what a
that.
power ballad is. It's an okay
Yeah,
song. Avril Lavigne. I don't think Avril Lavigne sounds like Avril Lavigne on this.
same.
Again, it
Yeah,
sounds over processed.
yeah.
don't think I'd replace this version with the new version.
No, same.
Again, it's a bit copy and pasty. What's your views on this one?
Yeah, it was one of them. Obviously, I know Avril Lavigne and stuff like that, and it was similar to yourself. I was expecting. I think we all probably were Ed Sheeran to potentially be the guest on it, but yeah. Again, she had nothing for me to it. My mate is a massive Avril Lavigne fan, and he was buzzing with it and thinks it's a great version. And that might be the bias thing I've got with Robbie Williams. I don't think that's a great version, by the way. We made it look easy, but I think you prefer it instantly when it's, an artist you like, because you probably listen out. Similar to what we've just said about John Bon Jovi, you listen out for the little parts of the vocals or the little extra bits that they put in and stuff like that. I prefer the original again on this one. And Living in Paradise, I like the song. It's not something I'd click and put on. It's quite good in the gym, loud, to be fair. I think just the chorus, John shouting the yeah part adds a little bit to it. But yeah, I prefer the original.
I just think this is a song that it needed something else in it, whether it was a solo, a bridge, and it surprises me because I quite like the Ed Sheeran song "Castle on the Hill," and that's kind of what
Yeah.
I expected from this, and it is a little bit in that vibe there, but it just doesn't seem to go anywhere for me. I've always felt like it's felt like a demo, maybe that John and Ed wrote it in an afternoon, and they were like, right, schedules have all come together. Right, we'll write this out. It's done. Right, now we'll move on
Yeah.
to the next track. Next song, My First Guitar. This one with Marcus King, I like. A lot of people like the fact there's more guitar added to it. I prefer the guitar on the original. I
So
think
do
this is
I.
a good version. I think Marcus King adds some nice bits and pieces to it. Probably the problem I've got is I've got no connection with Marcus King, so
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe for me, I would want somebody a little bit more connected with the guitar to sort of elevate this song. It just I prefer the original. What about yourself on this one?
The outro to the original version is one of my favourite Bon Jovi moments for years and years and years. I've always loved it. I love John's vocals at the end. I love the sound of the guitar. But I think it's probably going to be Shanks, obviously, playing it. I love the sound of the guitar on it. It's weird. My first guitar and Seeds, as much as I love them, are two of the cheesiest lyrics in it for me. Obviously, being in love with a guitar and, Seeds and Weeds, they're the two lyrics that do make me cringe a little bit. But then the rest of the song, forget them. The rest of the song on both of them is brilliant. And there's a nice couple of licks from obviously Marcus King on this album, on this song, which are nice. But again, very similar to Walls of Jericho and Waves, they've got rid of my favourite part. And it just makes me go instantly already. I'm like, no, I prefer the original just because they've gone. Yeah, I love the outro to the original, My First Guitar. I love John's vocals. I love the sound of the guitar, and yeah, they've gone. So shame, but yeah, I prefer the original.
And then Hollow Man, which for me, similar to you with Robbie Williams, this one features Springsteen.
Mm-hmm.
John told a little bit of a story about this one when I saw him at the Q&A, that when John was recovering from his vocal surgery, he would take demos out with Bruce in the car and they would listen to them, and then Bruce would then give him feedback. And this is one song that Bruce really liked and said that's a special one. It's you can tell where it's coming from, and I guess Bruce has struggled a bit with writer's block across the years, and I think all of that kind of thing comes in. That do you still have something to say? Is there a point there where you are empty? Springsteen has been promoting the Nebraska deluxe edition, so going back to a new box set. So the second Springsteen box set we've got this year,
Yeah.
which is a stripped back acoustic album. It's got a lot of harmonica in there. John wanted harmonica added to this, so that was the only request that John made of an artist was, can I have a Nebraska style harmonica in the song? So Springsteen went away, and this is where John kind of said, right, we just sent Bruce the track and said, do whatever you want with it, and then send it back.
Yeah.
And it was sent back in an afternoon. So this is where it kind of shows like the level of work that goes into there, that Bruce can just knock up a harmonica solo, sing his songs. Yeah, that's done. it's half a day and it's back in John's email folder. So it
Yeah,
works for me. I like this version. I would replace this version purely because I like Springsteen's vocals on there. I think Springsteen's vocals highlight John's vocal frailties on the songs,
yeah,
which is quite sad in a way. But I think it's an improvement on the original. It's just I've struggled with this song. I don't know why. I like a lot of John's solo acousticy sort of songs, but this one I've just never really been able to get into, and it was disappointing for me that Springsteen was on this particular song. I'd have loved him to have been on
yeah,
Living Proof,
yeah.
but it works. It's a nice ender to the album. I understand I what John is going for here. It's just a song that's probably just not for me there. What about yourself?
But I prefer this version, but that's because I don't particularly like the original. Kiss the Bride, I Wrote You a Song, and Hollow Man were probably the three weakest songs for me on Forever. They were songs that I'd skip when I'd listen to the album on Spotify and stuff like that. I think the version with Bruce, I probably only listened to it again 3 or 4 times maybe. But that's probably more than I've listened to Hollow Man, the original, because yeah, it does nothing for me. I like the harmonica at the start. I think Bruce, as you said, kind of it shows John's vocals at the moment, which is quite sad. But I think they both work vocally together. It's just I'm similar to you. I wish Bruce was on a different song than this one.
The next one, the Spanish version of We Made It Look Easy. I I'm not sure why this is on here.
Yeah,
I'm not going to listen to this song again. It's nice
yeah,
that they've added an international artist, and maybe for Spanish listeners, and I've got a few. If you guys feel that this is an improvement, let me know. It's there's the Spanish version of "This Ain't a Love Song" where John sung some
yeah.
of it in Spanish, and I'm sure there was
Bed of
another one as
Roses,
well.
Bed of
Uh,
Roses.
Bed of Roses. Yeah, it worked for me because John was doing it. It puzzled me.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I can't even. I think I've listened to half of this as well and turned it off. It just, yeah, I don't see the point personally. That's three versions of We Made It Look Easy. We've got now. Um, we don't need three versions of it. It's almost like Runaway on the 40th anniversary box set now. But yeah, no, it does not for me. I don't think I'll ever listen to it again. If it comes up on my Spotify or whatever, I'll probably skip it. So yeah,
And now, if you went and brought the special edition off of the website, you would have got a bonus track called Fight Somebody, which I hate to say it, it's probably the best song Bon Jovi have done in about 10 years, and it's been relegated as a bonus track. It's hard rocking, it's got cracking vocals, it's got a hell of a hook, it's got a really nice solo, a really nice outro, and this would have brought fans back to the band, and it's relegated to a bonus track.
yeah,
The
I don't.
outcry, and this is my little funny bit here. Nobody had heard this song. Literally nobody had heard this song. Me and my wife, I'd ordered the album. It was being dispatched on the release day. I saw the postman as me and my wife were going to the cinema to see the Springsteen movie Deliver Me From Nowhere. Chucked it in the boot of my car, got home, and then messaged Jay and said, "Oh, has anybody heard Fight Somebody yet?" And he was like, "No, no, nobody's like people are sort of saying on Twitter, has anybody got a bonus track?" Nobody was listening to it. And I said, "Well, give me 5 minutes in between." Like I'd had 20 minutes between having to pick my daughter up from school. I chucked it on my turntable and it got a record function. So I had to record it to a USB to then stick it onto my laptop, to then upload it to my phone to finally get it out. And me and my wife, we put it on and she said my jaw just dropped because this song was like, what is this song? Where has this Bon Jovi come from?
Yeah,
For me, it sounds like something from Bounce. It's got that harder edge which has been missing for years. Why this song was not dropped along, well, originally I thought, they're being really clever because they were in a fight for number one. They know they've got this really good song in their pocket. So what they're going to do, middle of the week when they're fighting, I can't remember who it was, Taylor Swift or whoever for number one, and they were within, I think it was 20,000 units at one point. They're going to drop this new song, and people are going to be like, "Wow, Bon Jovi are back big time. I've got to look at this new album." John was doing promo everywhere, and then they didn't do it. and this album's not this song's not available on streaming. It's I don't get this. There's even been petitions from fans that are like, we love this song. There's a guy there that he's got 300 people. That might not sound a lot, but he's pushing it to say, right, we need to get this song out there. The other thing is, when we've alluded to it here, there's several sections of fandom. There's kind of legacy fans that just want to focus on what came before 2013. You've got kind of us fans that appreciate everything and are just Bon Jovi fans. And then you've got kind of what you would call like the crazies, that John could do an album where he farts the greatest hits and they would say it's an artistic, amazing, like never had an album like this. It was the best thing that he's ever done. Even these guys were like, well, what's he doing? Why is this track not out here? What are your views on Fight Somebody?
But like it's probably the most I've played a song for a long time, and it's only on YouTube. I can't help if it was on Spotify where I can literally just keep playing it, but it's brilliant. I love it. I absolutely love it. I love John's vocals. I love the guitar at the start. I love the drums. I think the lyrics are good. The way John delivers lines. It's genuinely like it's just the song we want. You know, take out a Kiss the Bride or whatever on the album. It would elevate that album in so many people's eyes last year. Because I keep saying it here. I think there's 4 or 5 very, very good songs on Forever, and there's been a while since I've said on an album there's 4 or 5 very, very good songs. Living Proof, Waves. I think Walls of Jericho's up there. Obviously, Fight Somebody now, if you want to include that. Seed, if you take out that line. My First Guitar, if you take out that line. I think they're all excellent, excellent songs.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, Fight Somebody's just a bonus track, and it's in the same vein for me as Dirty Little Secret, Nothing, Lonely. You know, why are these songs not on albums? They're some of the best songs. Walk Like a Man.
Yep.
They're some of the best songs that the band have done for them particular albums, and they're left off. And Fight Somebody will never get any, the same way Dirty Little Secret will never get any recognition from outsiders because they'll never know of it. That song, if it was on the album, should have been a single. That's how good it is. You know, imagine in 2024, instead of Legendary, they come out saying, here's the new Bon Jovi song, Fight Somebody. I think you'd get a lot of fans back on board.
100%.
It's a brilliant song. Brilliant song.
And the thing is, this came from a conversation. This song came about a conversation that John had with Lainey Wilson, where Lainey Wilson was talking about how she would fight somebody for, I can't remember the exact thing, but she said that in John's presence, and John was like, "That's a song title." And then him and Billy Falcon went away and wrote that. My question is, and I guess that's kind of our views on the Legendary edition of Forever. After this was released, we then got told that there was going to be a promo video dropping a couple of days later. It was shown in Madison, like I think in the lobby of Madison Square Garden, somewhere in London, somewhere else across the world. And in it, John steps up to the microphone and basically says, "We're going back out on stage." And then sang a couple of songs. And the vocals were better than 2022, but still not as great as how he'd been sort of saying, "I'm in the studio and I'm hitting the high note of prayer. I can sing anything in the catalogue." And we're all kind of feeling that. We saw performances in 2024 where there were flashes. There was a version of This Ain't a Love Song where John did go for it a little bit, and there's flashes. What concerned me was that first like sentence on Legendary, and it was so flat, and I was just like, because I got myself excited that are we back to not a 2010 2011, like are we just back to being able to sing consistently? And it was difficult because I'm going to Wembley, you're going to Wembley, like I just wanted, like, because even when he sang 3 songs. He sang Legendary, Red, White and Jersey, and It's My Life. Red, White, and Jersey, the first sentence on that, the first set of lyrics, he nails. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that's all right. And there's a really good vocal analysis there where it's showing that
Mm-hmm.
actually, if you listen to him on isolated vocals, he is hitting notes. He's genuinely hitting notes. He is genuinely singing in places, but he's struggling with pronunciation. It's P's and B's. When you've got a P following a B, he's really struggling. And I don't know. I'm not a performer. I it, it was difficult to watch because all I wanted was him to be happy up there, and he still looked. I don't know. The whole tour that he went on was all about joy. He
Yeah.
just didn't 100% for me look joyful. And I hope first night in Madison Square Gardens, he comes running out there, he's jumping around, and you see that joy on his face. It was a bit of a difficult watch for me, if I'm honest. I thought the band sounded fantastic. There were
Yeah.
moments from John, but it's still, and I actually, and I'll let you talk in a minute. I do respect them putting this out because I have said before that I feel that Bon Jovi, when they sell a project, they go overboard. John's vocals the best he's ever been. We're going to charge you an arm and a leg, and it's going to be the best show you've ever seen. And you go, and it's not been great. Like
Yeah.
2019, 2022, not great at all. And I sort of said when I joined you on a podcast, I'd respect John more for coming out and saying, this is the product. Now you can make the decision.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the thing for me. I'm going to Wembley and I know what I'm expecting. So I'm
Yeah.
not going to go into Wembley. I'm not going to slate his vocals because I know what I'm buying. What were your views on the performance and what's your kind of views on sort of the voice at the moment?
Yeah. I was very, I think disappointed is probably the right word. That maybe be being harsh, but as you said, when you've got, these interviews and John's going, oh, I sound better. And I actually don't think it's John struggling to nail to hit the note. I don't think he's got problems hitting the notes. I think he can hit them. It's the sound of how he sounds when he is hitting them. His tone just doesn't sound right. The way he's holding the microphone seems off. This is John Bon Jovi. I know he's 63 and I know it's a promo video. He's not going to be running around the stage like a madman. Of course he's not. But because he's one thing I'm worried about when we go to Wembley and stuff like that, and I know there's going to be 80, 90,000 people there, and you got the Madison Square Garden shows before that, because he keeps saying he's doing these 2-hour shows in his house for 4 days a week, I'm worried that like muscle memory kicks in and he doesn't move from the microphone. That's my worry with Bon Jovi or John. Standing there the way he was at that promo show, that's how I vision him, especially if you look back at the documentary. He was stood how he was in his house when he was practicing.
Yeah.
And this was going out to the world. This was going out to everyone. This was the big video that they were promoting. This was the big thing to promote the tour. And it was John Bon Jovi stood at a mic stand. John Bon Jovi's known, maybe again, not so much the last few years or last decade or so, he's known for bombing it around the stage. He's known to grab a mic, walk around, smile at the crowd, blah, blah, blah. And I know there's no crowd there, but there was no, even when they done it, I don't know if you remember like that 2020 drive-in show for like the cinemas and stuff.
Yeah.
John was moving. This was no difference. This was the same setup. But John was moving around a little bit more. Obviously, he's got a lot more songs, but John was moving around a lot more. It's my life. John usually gets there, even if he just picked the mic up and sung to the camera or something, but there was nothing. He was holding the microphone stand, not so much for dear life like he used to. It was a different grip. Sounds stupid saying it, but it was a different grip. It was probably a bit more relaxed. But that's my fear, because when I went to see them in 2019, he sounded poor. And I've never denied that. He sounded better than what he did on YouTube, but he sounded poor still. But he was moving around the stage and you were still watching him moving around, and he was going up there, the catwalk, if that's what you want to call it. He was going across to one side, going across to the other. My fear is because he's been for the last 2 or 3 years planted in his room with these monitors in that he keeps saying, and he's been performing for 2 hours. And so my worry is that he's going to forget how to be a showman and just focus on the singing, and that's my worry.
My kind of feeling is I think he just he needs to let it go in the sense that just go out there, perform. Like, don't. I think he's mentally, and this is my opinion as well. Like you're saying, how do I get to that note? Right, I need to do
Yeah,
this to get to here, and it's not natural. And John, for me, like even just the show we watched yesterday, he just saunters out, grabs the microphone, and it's like bang, right,
yeah,
and then he just starts performing.
yeah,
When in 2022, when he started with Limitless, it was like holding the microphone for dear life. And he went on to a really good podcast called How to Fail with Elizabeth Day. And he said that he's rewatched videos of that, and he said he couldn't recognize himself because he was saying like I was doing this funny eye movement, I was like like trying to like push out a note, and he was like that wasn't me. So I think he's fought to get where he wants to be. And then another podcast, the Feel Better Live More, with Dr. Rangan Chatterjee. That's a really good listen. And in that, John kind of says that he's he doesn't want the pressure from people to be amazing. And I found it quite concerning. I don't know if that's the right word, when the doctor there was talking about potentially flying his kids out to see the first Madison Square Garden show. And John was like, no, don't put that pressure on me. And that worried me because John normally for me is the sort of person is like, I'm gonna sell out the desert, like you're gonna come and see a rock show. I
yeah,
age like a fine wine, all of this. And he come
yeah,
across very vulnerable. Another show that he was on with John Madden from Good Charlotte, they were talking set lists and bits and pieces like that. And we've only got sort of about 5 minutes before we got to wrap up today. But just before we do, what songs are you expecting to hear? Is there anything? Do you think we're going to get some rarities?
I'd like to think so. I'd love to be able to see. I'd love to be able to see the set list that John is kind of using um, for these shows at home and stuff like that. I would love to be able to see that. I said to you, I still think we'll get the Just Olders, the Love's the Only Rules,
Yeah.
the them type of songs. I think we'll get. Trying to think of one or two. Radio Save My Life. I think we'll get them type of songs. Will we get a Hey God? Will we get a I Believe? I don't think so. He may go for it once or twice. I don't know. I don't think so. Um,
Always, maybe.
I think we'll get Always, and I think we'll get Always. I think Always at Wembley will be a given. I think that's a given. I don't think fans will forgive him if he never played Always at Wembley. Um, I don't think he'll play it all 3 nights. Don't get me wrong. Um, but I think especially on the third night, I think they'll play. I think they'll play Always.
I think that's the thing for me. I'm kind of expecting to hear most of the songs from Forever. I would love like the song that I've been chasing forever, and I was talking to Dom yesterday on the hand premiere where we were saying about would there have been a point that we'd have walked away from seeing the band live? And I was honest. I said, if at Hyde Park they'd have finished with This Ain't a Love Song, and that would have been
Yeah,
John walking down the stairs, I think I that would have been it for me as going and seeing them live. The frustrating thing comes from me was the price of the tickets again. For me and my wife, 150 quid a pop, but my daughter wanted to come. I can't justify 150 quid for her, like because we've got to travel down to London and things like that. The ticket prices across the board are not great. They weren't awful, but I do feel it frustrating that again it kind of prices out. When I saw my Lost Highway ticket the other day, and that was 40 quid a pop, and I'm
yeah,
like, for 90 quid, I'd have done that. For me, I had to choose between the three shows. At the moment, I'm going to the first night. I want to go to the third night, but I will wait because it's not kind of selling out at the moment. So my gut feeling is hold off, hold off, hold off, and then might be able to get some cheaper tickets nearer the time. And I
Yeah,
also want to see what the set lists are, because if it is going to be very much like This House Is Not For Sale and it's going to be a standard set and you might get Always at the end of it, that would be nice. But if it is just going to be the same 22 songs, one night's going to be enough for me.
yeah. I think with ticket prices, like I feel like with most artists now, they're getting higher and higher and higher. You know, some people are playing the small little venues in Liverpool, the O2 academies and stuff, paying 55, 60 quid, holds 1,500 people. And you're like, they're not big bands, and you know, they're playing small capacity venues, 50, 60 quid. I got Gold Circle, I think, for 135, I think it was,
But
um, for all 3 nights, which isn't bad. Like, it's not bad at all. And it's paid now. Do you know what I mean? It's a bill that I paid.
yep.
So, you know, I've got no worries until hotels and stuff now for 8, 9 months. So, you know, once I paid it, I go, you know what, I'm going to see my favourite band. I'm going to see some of my best mates, fans that have, you know, friends that I've made through Twitter, through the forum, stuff like that. You know, you can't, sometimes, the way I look at it, sometimes money can't buy that, because the best experience I've got are before and after the shows,
Yeah, I
because,
agree.
you know, I get to see people from, you know, different countries, different cities, and, you know, we all get to speak and talk about our favourite bands. So, yeah, ticket prices aren't cheap. I'm not going to say they're cheap, but I don't think they were as bad as what I thought they would be.
No.
I thought I was going to pay 150 quid a ticket before fees. Do you know what I mean? Like, I thought
Yeah.
that would be it, and it ends up costing 170, 180 each with fees. But it's probably what I expected.
So just to kind of like round things up, I guess I think we're both going into it now with, we know what to expect. We're going there to enjoy it. We're going there to sing our favorite songs with 80,000 people.
Yeah,
And it just comes from a place of love. Like, I think that's what we want to do. We want to go out there. We want to enjoy seeing this band again.
yeah.
And I hope they get their act together with the legacy side of things, because I think they could make a lot of money. Um, are you expecting to see any warm-up shows?
I mean, John said that to expect them, I'd like them to be a warm-up show, because the Palladium show in particular was one of my favourite shows that I've seen Bon Jovi. It was a nice intimate setting. Got to hear an album in full, which doesn't happen all the time. You know, This House Is Not For Sale, so I probably only heard at the actual shows 3 or 4 songs maybe, and I think I've done 4 shows.
Yeah.
So that's not a massive turnover. It maybe even being less than that, to be honest with you. But I got to hear the album in full. This House Is Not For Sale, I really enjoyed the album at the time. It's not my favourite album by any means. The same way as Forever, it's not my favourite album, but I'd like to listen to it in full, you know, at a concert, because these are songs that I know I'll probably never hear waves or something like that at one of these shows. I just can't see it. But if I got to hear it in an intimate setting, in a warm-up show, I'd take that. So I'm hoping he does the Forever album, or they do the Forever album in full. And then obviously, you know, similar to what they done play, It's My Life, Bad Medicine, or whatever it was that they played after
Yeah.
the album in full, to still give fans 2 or 3 songs from, you know, the catalogue. I hope so. Do you think he'll get them?
Yeah, I think for me, I just don't know what to expect now. I think that's what I would love. I'd like January time for him to start. I think there'll be a runaway show soon. I really would.
Yeah,
But it would be
yeah,
nice to get something over in Europe, and instead of
yeah,
fleecing the fans, just do like a lottery. Like, do what they did with the Palladium. Just play, just dip his toes back in. But it's going to be interesting to see what they come out with. So that's all we've got time for this week. So thank
hmm
you very much, Jay, for joining us. I'm sure you're going to be back on next year, hopefully in advance of the tour. It would be really nice to catch up after the Wembley shows as well, just to sort of get your feedback on those. But maybe after the Madison Square Garden the first night, you can jump on and we can do a little bit of a debrief about it. But
yeah. Sounds
please
good.
keep doing your good work on Twitter, on your page. I know you get a lot of hate for being, and I don't class it as being negative. I just think with yourself there that you are just honest, and sometimes honesty can be painful for people, but we love this band. We want the best from this band. So keep doing your good work. And yeah, I'll see you on the
Cheers,
podcast
mate.
soon.
Oh, thank you very much. I enjoyed that. Thank you very much for having me.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
And that just leaves me to thank you, my listeners, for joining me for another episode of Flint Rocks. I hope you have a good rest of your week and keep on rocking.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to my daddy's channel.